In this video, we are going to go over how to solve multi-step equations with variables on both sides. You have your list of 7 steps here on the screen. Go ahead and feel free to hit pause so you can have time to get these down in your notes. Step 1 tells us we're going to combine like terms. Step 2, we need to get all the variables on the same side of the equal sign. Step 3, identify the variable you are trying to solve for. Step 4, identify what is preventing that variable from being by itself and determine the operation needed to undo it. Step 5, perform that operation. Step 6, you're going to repeat steps 3 through 5 until the variable is alone on one side of the equal sign. And finally, our last step is to make sure we circle the final answer. Let's look at some examples. In this first example, we have negative 14 plus 7n equals 7n plus 7n. Step 1 told us we need to combine like terms, so we need to look and see if we have any like terms. In this case, we do over here on the right side of the equal sign. 7n plus 7n can combine together because they are like terms. On the left, I did not touch any part of that, so I'm just going to copy it down. 7n plus 7n is equal to 14n. Step 2 told us to get all the variables on one side of the equal sign. It does not matter what side you send the variables to. I like to keep the coefficient positive, so I am going to move this positive 7n over by subtracting 7n on both sides. When we do that, the 7n minus 7n cancels, so on the left we just have a negative 14 is equal to 14n minus 7n gives us 7n. Now in order to get the n by itself, we are going to divide both sides by 7 just like we've been doing for several days. 7 divided by 7 is 1, so we can cancel that out. Negative 14 divided by 7 is a negative 2 is equal to n. And remember, on our final answers, we always want to make sure the variable is listed on the left first, so we just flip that around to n equals negative 2. And don't forget to circle your answer. Let's look at a second example. In this example, we have negative 11 plus 3n minus 3n equals 1 minus 2n. Look to see if there's any like terms we can combine. In this case, there's a positive 3n and a negative 3n. Those are actually going to cancel out and equal 0, leaving us with just our negative 11 is equal to 1 minus 2n. This now looks like a two-step equation that we've spent quite a lot of time on. In order to get the n by itself, we need to take care of that positive 1. To send it to the other side, we're going to subtract. The 1 minus 1 is going to cancel, so we now have a negative 12 is equal to a negative 2n. To get the n by itself, we need to undo that times negative 2. To undo multiplication, we divide by that negative 2. And we get that negative 12 divided by negative 2 is 6 equals n. Again, our variable needs to be on the left, so we're going to switch that to an n equals 6. Let's look at a third example. Here we have negative 5 minus b minus 5 equals 5b minus 5b minus 12. Look to combine like terms. Here I have a minus 5 and another minus 5, and over on the right side of the equal sign I have a 5b minus 5b. So we can go ahead and combine both of those sets of like terms. Over there on the left, we end up with a negative b minus 10 is equal to a 5b minus 5b cancels out, it equals 0, leaving us with just the minus 12. Now, in order to get b by itself, we're going to have to add that 10 to both sides. The 10s cancel, leaving us with a negative b is equal to -2. Our b is not by itself yet. With the negative sign just in front, it's like there's a -1 there. So we want the b by itself, so we're going to have to divide both sides by that -1. So we actually end up with b is equal to 2 for our final answer. Let's look at another example. Here in example 4, we have a 3 minus 6k minus 1 is equal to -3k plus 14. Same process. Is there any like terms that we can combine? In this case, there's a 3 and a -1 that we are able to combine. So we have a 3 minus 1, which is a 2, minus the 6k is equal to -3k plus 14. Now we want to move all the variables to the same side. It doesn't matter which way you move them. I like to keep the coefficient positive, so I'm going to add the 6k to both sides, so I end up with a positive coefficient on my variable k. So we end up with a 2 is equal to -3k plus 6k becomes a positive 3k, and then we still have that plus 14. From here, we're still trying to get k by itself. This is a basic two-step equation that, again, we've spent a lot of time on. So we're going to subtract the 14 from both sides. Two minus 14 is going to give us a -12 is equal to 3k. To get the k by itself, we need to divide both sides by 3. -12 divided by 3 gives us -4 equals k. We don't want to leave our answer like that because the variable is not on the left. So we're going to go ahead and flip it over or switch it. K equals -4. Let's look at another example. Here we have 10 minus k equals 2k minus 8. Our first step tells us to look to combine like terms. In this particular problem, we don't have any like terms that we can combine. So we can go ahead and move on to step 2, which is getting the variables on the same side of the equal sign. To do that, again, I like to keep the coefficient positive, so I'm going to add the 1k to both sides. So we end up with a 10 is equal to 3k minus 8. And once again, we've ended up with a two-step equation. In order to solve the two-step equation, we're going to add 8 to both sides. Which gives us 18 is equal to 3k. To get k by itself from there, we need to divide both sides by 3. 18 divided by 3 gives us 6 is equal to k, and we want to flip that around to k equals 6, so the variable is on the left. Let's look at one last example. Here we have -8b minus 3b plus 14 equals 4b plus 1 minus 2. We want to look to combine like terms. Over here on the right side of the equal sign, I have a -8b and a -3b that we can combine. On the other side of the equal sign, I have a 1 and a -2. -8b minus 3b is going to combine to give us a -11b. We still have that plus 14 is equal to 4b, and a 1 minus 2 gives us a -1. Now that we've combined our like terms, we want to move our variable over to the one side of the equal sign. Again, I like to keep my variables positive, or my coefficient on the variable positive, so I'm going to add the 11b over. That is going to give us a 14 is equal to 15b minus 1. And yet again, we have another two-step equation. We should know how to deal with that by now. We're going to add 1 to both sides. That's going to give us 15 equals 15b. To get b by itself from here, we need to divide both sides by 15. So we end up at 1 is equal to b, and we write our final answer the other way, so the variable is on the left. b equals 1. And that's our final answer. Hopefully this video helped explain how to solve multi-step equations with variables on both sides.